Now, Brooklyn is one of the most notorious boroughs in New York City, with projects like Lafayette Gardens, Brevoort, Marcy, Sumner, Tompkins Peas, Albany Houses, Kingsborough, Rutland Plaza, The Plaza, Marcus Garvey, Tilden, Pink Houses, Cypress, and the list goes on. The home of Big Daddy Cain, Biggie, Jay-Z, Lil' Kim, M.O.P., ODB, Fabulous, and A.Z. And notorious street legends like 50 Cent, Demencio, Puerto Rican Jesus, and Killer Ben, just to name a few. The home of the Wu and Cho, from Brownsville, Bed-Stuy, to Flatbush, Bushwick, Coney Island, Crown Heights, Williamsburg, East New York, you name it. Now in Kingsborough, even though it's poverty and people struggling, we still spread love because it's the Brooklyn way. Now even though we spread love, we still get on that Brooklyn bullshit.
Bobby, what do you have to say? Bobby, anything?
Sir, back door.
Now, Rowdy Rebel is a rapper from Brooklyn, New York. Rowdy Rebel is from the East Flatbush section of Brooklyn. That's very close to Brownsville, the 90s to be exact. You might have heard the 90s being referred as 9 ounce or the 9. The 90s is full of talented rappers from Rowdy Rebel, Fabio Foreign, Corey Finesse, Drizzy Giuliano, and the late Mook Moolah, just to name a few. Now in Rowdy younger years, he was part of a group called the Rutland Rebels, along with Baby Rutland and Flawless. But Rowdy wouldn't see mainstream success until Bobby Murda put out the Hot record, which quickly went viral along with Rowdy Rebel's record for Shmoney Dance. Rowdy and Bobby would then follow up with the Computers record, making GS9 the hottest thing in the music industry. But the too quick rise in the music industry would come to a quick end when Rowdy and Bobby, along with 13 others, was arrested for murder, attempt murder, reckless endangerment, and a slew of other charges. Now, before Rowdy Rebel would spend nearly 7 years in prison, before Rowdy put out his hit record for Shmoney Dance and Computers, along with Bobby Murda, before the world would be introduced to GS9, Rowdy would find himself in some trouble he might not made it out of. Now, according to Rowdy Rebel, after a long night of hanging out and drinking with friends in the Bronx around 4 a.m., on their way home from that friend mother house, him and some of his guys ran into a group of Spanish dudes arguing amongst each other. Now, according to Rowdy Rebel, he says he was playing his PSP and drinking from his cup. His friend got his attention, tapped him and put him on to the altercation going on ahead of them. Now, supposedly this altercation was going on about 4 a.m. in the morning, and if you're familiar with altercations happening that time of morning, then you know it sounds pretty loud. But according to Rowdy Rebel, he says he got frustrated with the situation because the guys was just arguing and making noise. So according to Rowdy, he says he downed his cup that he was drinking and put his PSP in his pocket. He moves his friend out the way, and he walks towards the Spanish guys, and he pops on one of them, and he knocked them out cold. So basically, Rowdy was on bad timing. He was on some stuff like, look, y'all here making all this noise this early in the morning. Ain't nobody doing nothing, so I'm not going to mind my business. And I'm going to get it popping since y'all ain't getting it popping, and just insert himself into the situation. So now after Rowdy knocked out one of the Hispanic dudes, that started a brawl with Rowdy and his people and a Spanish guy and his crew. Now, according to Rowdy Rebel, he says the Hispanic guys pulled out knives without them even realizing it. So while they fighting and getting it on, he said one of the guys ran by and hit him in the stomach. But the hit to the stomach wasn't actually a punch or nothing. It was actually him being stabbed by one of the guys. And he didn't realize he was stabbed until his legs started to give out on him. So now after his legs was giving out on him, he decided to lift his shirt up and check. And he said he seen a hole. And in that hole, like his guts was hanging out of his stomach. But Rowdy and his crew decided to go back to the building they were coming from and escape the attack from the Hispanic guys by getting back to that building, locking themselves in, and, eventually calling the ambulance. Now, luckily, Rowdy Rebel would survive this attack, and hopefully Rowdy Rebel learned something from this situation, because things could have definitely got ugly out there in the Bronx for him. Now, in the DVD era, there was a few rising stars who were consistently on DVDs trying to make a name for themselves, whether it was Pat Poose, Graf, Uncle Murda, Ransom, Stack Bundles, or even Gravy, just to name a few. Now, a few of the guys at the time had record deals, but the whole idea of them being on these DVDs was to get some visual exposure and possibly become the next big hip-hop star. Now, a lot of the underground rappers on a come up at the time had a milestone they wanted to reach, and that was being on Hot 97 and freestyling that Funk Flex show at the time. Now, a few rappers around this time in 2006 that was at Funk Flex show freestyling would be Stack Bundles, J Mills, and J.R. Ryder. And you know, at this time, this was a big deal. Now, another rapper on the come up at the time that would make it to Funk Flex for an interview and so he could freestyle would be Gravy. But when Gravy went up to Hot 97 for an interview and freestyle at Funk Flex, he was shot in the butt, and it was rumors at the time that Uncle Murda was connected to the shooting. Now, prior to the incident, Gravy and Uncle Murda was cool, and they both were being promoted by DJ Cutmaster C in the come up. And you know, they even worked on a few tracks together, like The Format, The Takeover, which featured Ransom, and Hood News Shootouts, which featured Ransom as well. So basically, Cutmaster C seemed like he was promoting all of them and, you know, trying to get their buzz up. Now, DJ Cutmaster C did an interview with Queen's Flip, and he recalls how things started to begin to go sour with Uncle Murda and Gravy.
So now I'm pushing Mano, I'm pushing Uncle Murda. Gravy's looking at it like, yo, I'm not getting the shine that I'm supposed to be getting no more.
Now, according to Cutmaster C, he basically said things started to go sour because he began to push Uncle Murda and Mano, and Gravy ain't really like it because he felt like he was no longer getting any shine. And also, he would give Uncle Murda and Mano the #1 slot on his mixtape, which caused conflict as well, because having a #1 slot on mixtapes at the time was very important to the artists on the come up. But here switches #1 slot on his mixtape, you know, to give the other guys a look as well, and to be fair. Now, of course, a lot of the subliminals on them tracks and all the trash talking on the DVDs.
That BK is mine, that's right, I said it. BK is mine, that's right, I said it.
Actually sparked things up as well too.
They all started beefing with each other. Now we got shootouts in front of Hot 97. Gravy mysteriously got hit. A lot of streets got involved and guns, and a lot of dumb started happening.
Now, after Gravy was shot at Hot 97, there'd be rumors going around that Uncle Murda had some involvement with the shooting. Now, Uncle Murda will actually address these rumors on a freestyle him and Newz had dissing Gravy to Lloyd Banks' Cake Beat. Now, on the freestyle, Uncle Murda said, "Tell the hip-hop police to get off my nuts. Uncle Murda ain't shoot Gravy in the butt. Same police that was following Game around came to see me, niggas throwing my name around." Now, I'm not sure after Uncle Murda saying this on that freestyle with Newz if it actually cleared up the rumors of him being involved in the shooting with Gravy, or if it actually sparked the rumors. You get what I'm saying?
A shootout happens outside of Hot 97. You get shot.
Something like that.
Exactly. Oh, it was an accidental shooting.
For sure, for sure.
But later on, it will be reported that Gravy was actually shot by somebody by mistake in his crew, and he also was banned from Hot 97 after the shooting. Now, after this situation, Gravy would be somewhat blackballed, you get what I'm saying? But he did get to play Biggie Smalls in the Notorious movie, and that opened a lot of doors for him in acting, you get what I'm saying? Now he's the king of Tubi. Anytime you turn on Tubi, you see a movie with him starring in it or playing in it. He actually got to play in the Barbershop movie too, along with Nicki Minaj and Ice Cube, and that's kind of dope because him and Nicki Minaj both were signed to Finney under Dirty Money, so that was dope. And he also went to play in the Tupac movie as well as Biggie, and you know, he just played in a lot of movies. He got over 30 movies on Tubi alone, so acting definitely was his calling.
Hey, I know what it is. Young Newz. You know y'all here in Queens. I'm repping Coke Keys and Fetty, man. That nigga suck.
Now, Newz is a rapper from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York. Some may know him as Young Newz or Brooklyn Newz. Newz hit the mixtape scene in the early 2000s. Around age 19, after knowing Coke, Newz hook up with DJ Envy. Newz and his partner Coke, who was in the rap game already, will be introduced as a duo under DJ Envy's Block Entertainment and begin to put out Block Gang mixtapes. Newz will also be featured on several mixtapes at the time, from DJ Envy, DJ Clue, Big Mike, and Cutmaster C, just to name a few. Newz would even work with artists from Red Cafe, Uncle Murda, Mano, and Gravy. After becoming popular as a solo artist, Newz would start his mixtape series for the Takeover. Once Newz began to create a buzz in the DVD era, he would appear on DVDs like Smack DVD, True Stories DVD, and Real Talk, and the list goes on. Now, one of Newz's most iconic appearances on the DVD in the DVD era will be on Smack DVD, where Newz shot a small video for his song Gangsta Shroll, with guest appearances in his video by Mano and DJ Envy. Now, when the song and videos brung up, a lot of people say it's one of their favorite songs by Young Newz, if not their favorite. Now, if you're from the mixtape and DVD era and you rock with Young Newz, jump in the comment section and let me know your favorite song by him. Now, around this time in 05-06, Newz will have a close affiliation with fellow Bed-Stuy native G-Baby, who will be with him on most of the DVDs he appeared on. Now, in 2006, Newz will put out his mixtape for the Takeover Part 2. The same year, he'll have a feud with rapper and actor Gravy. Now, Newz and Uncle Murda will put out a diss record to Gravy after he was shot in the butt at Hot 97. Newz will also come at Gravy on a Real Talk DVD to the 50 Cent and Tupac The Realest Killers beat. Now, on this DVD, Newz along with G-Baby would express that Gravy wasn't really from Bed-Stuy, and Newz would say that he was dissing Gravy because he felt Gravy sent shots at him indirect prior.
That's the building he picked the beat from. You ain't from here. You ain't even from Bedford Stuyvesant.
By 2007, Newz was signed to Murda Inc., stemming from his relationship with Chris Gotti, the brother of Irv Gotti.
Feels good to be in the business. Gang murder ring.
While being signed to Murda Inc., Newz will be setting up his release for his debut album, Hunting Season. Newz will put out songs with Ja Rule like I'm Ready, Still Murder, and also will be featured on Irv Gotti's reality show, Gotti's Way, on VH1 in 2009. Newz seemed to be happy under Murda Inc., and it seemed like Murda Inc. was fully supporting Newz, but Newz' album would never drop, and it seemed like his buzz and him signing to Murda Inc. would eventually die out. Now, in 2010, Newz will pop back on the scene with a new video for Money Over Everything, alongside of DJ Envy, where on this record, Newz would say, I signed to the murderers, but that ain't work out. Now I'm back on the block with my niggas hand and work out. Now, it seems like business with Newz and Irv Gotti didn't work out, and it's never been clear on his reasons for leaving Murda Inc. Now, after reading the comments off of old videos of Newz, I see it's more recent comments of a lot of people saying he reminds them of Pop Smoke. Now, Newz sometimes did have a way of doing his hooks that sounds similar to the rhythm of 50 Cent, just like Pop Smoke. Plus, they both had heavy voices. Now, we know Pop Smoke was influenced by 50 Cent, and Newz could have been influenced as well. Now, jump in my comment section if you hear similarities between Newz and Pop Smoke. Now, the question is, was Young Newz blackballed by 50 Cent due to his beef with Murda Inc., or was it just a misunderstanding between Newz and Irv Gotti? Now, in 2010, Newz would get back on his grind and begin to put out music videos for Money Over Everything, BK Ninja, For You Rappers, and the list goes on. Now, around 2012, Newz will put out his mixtape under his new label, Cream Nation, called Cash Rules Everything Around Me, Volume 1. Now, to everyone following Newz, they thought he was making a comeback and he'll create a buzz all over like he had once before. But unfortunately, after trying to set the underground hip-hop scene on fire again, Newz would completely disappear from the scene. Now, Newz' last post was on Instagram April 2013, and everybody want to know where Newz is at and what's he up to. Supposedly, Newz got shot up and fell back from the hip-hop music industry. Now, this shooting happened more than a few years back, and it's unclear when this shooting happened exactly as far as what year and how many times he was shot. Now, there's no residue left online on when this situation actually happened. I guess because Newz was no longer in the headlines, so it's really unclear. But from what I'm hearing, Newz is doing well, and in my opinion, I feel like he's no longer in the spotlight because he's just tired. Now, he did the mixtape era, he did the DVD era, got signed to a major label, but never came out with an album, which could be very discouraging.
It's a baby boy, young G-Baby, Get Low Record, QBB.
Now, G-Baby is a rapper from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York. G-Baby would hit the DVD scene in the DVD era, accompanied by Brooklyn rapper Newz. Now, G-Baby would appear on a countless number of DVDs with Newz, where he would display his outspoken and entertaining personality. But G-Baby would eventually shy away from Newz and begin to promote his own brand, QBB, along with Bo Mayo. Now, after creating a buzz for being on numerous DVDs, G-Baby would sign a Memphis Bleak Get Low record label. G-Baby partner in QBB, Bo Mayo, would be arrested and do 11 years in prison for a case that G-Baby was charged in as well, but G-Baby would go on a run to avoid jail time. Now, while being on a run, G-Baby would spend a lot of time with Queens rappers Frenchie and Maserati Fox. Now, while the underground music industry began to switch from DVDs to the internet blog sites, G-Baby along with Frenchie would drop videos for Damn It, Cloud9, and Stacks on Stacks, just to name a few. G-Baby would find himself beefing around this time, accompanied by Maserati Fox with other Queens rappers Young Dice and Rich De Niro. It would seem like G-Baby would create a buzz all over on the internet with all the beefs he was involved in. But sadly, March 2010, G-Baby would be gunned down and killed outside a club in Missouri in Queens. Now, G-Baby was doing a show at Club in Missouri and Fabulous was the headline. After Fabulous left the club, G-Baby followed. Now, supposedly, G-Baby was by Fabulous' car when he got gunned down. Now, supposedly, after G-Baby was laying on the floor after he was shot, someone in Fabulous' car moved him out the way so Fabulous and his people could drive off and leave the scene of the shooting. Now I'm going to get into an article from 2010 by the Daily News, and they explain most of the events that happened that night. Police are investigating a possible link between hip-hop star Fabulous and the murder of an upstart rapper near a Queens nightclub, the Daily News has learned. NYPD detectives aren't sure what role, if any, the Brooklyn rapper might played in March killing, but a surveillance video shows Fabulous leaving Club in Missouri seconds before a mystery gunman blasted Greg G-Baby Brown in the back. Fabulous is about to get in the car as the shooting goes down, said police source who watched the video. Police and G-Baby relatives say rappers both from Bedford-Stuyvesant had a long-standing beef, though a source said they put it behind them. My son was going to talk to Fab in a car and he got shot 3 times. Grieving mother Roxanne Brown said, "I don't know what's going on. I just want to know who killed my son." News of the young rapper Murda spread on the internet after Fabulous wrote about it on Twitter 7 hours after the shooting. Lost a soldier in the field this morning, he tweeted, "R.I.P. G-Baby." Fabulous got there around 3 a.m., said former NYPD hip-hop crimes investigator Derek Parker, who was at the concert helping with security. Fabulous left the stage an hour later. Parker says soon after he left the club, there was gunfire on Archer Ave and 143rd Street. G-Baby was shot in the back, and a person cops said was an innocent bystander was wounded in the groin. A second victim, a 20-year-old man, survived. Parker has worked with detectives from the 103rd Precinct and the NYPD Intelligence Unit, acting as a bridge between the hip-hop community and police. G-Baby and Fabulous had beef before, but they supposedly squashed all of that, Parker said. So basically, this is how Fabulous was connected to the whole murder and death of G-Baby. Now, after there was no arrest made for G-Baby's murder, his mother will come forward in 2018 and say that her nephew was attacked by the man who's believed to kill her son in Queens. And she even goes on to say that the guy that supposedly may have killed her son was a very dangerous dude, and she basically want 103rd Precinct to speed things up so she could get some justice for her son. Now, I'm not sure as of today if there's been any arrest in G-Baby's murder, but as far as Fab having any involvement, I think that's all just hearsay and speculation and nothing factual. But G-Baby was definitely a DVD legend in the DVD era. He used to get on them DVDs. QBB, it's your boy. You know what I mean? The talk is talk. And you know, he definitely up there with the Shay Davises, the French Montanas, and so on. Anybody you could think that was in that era making noise on them DVDs, he definitely up there with them.
And while we on the topic, let me share a bit of knowledge for those thinking I got it. Try to take a peek at my wallet. I know you heard the phrase, keep your hands out my pocket. From where I stand, and seeing you and your man's out of pocket. Could send a couple rockets that'll knock a couple limbs out of socket. I'm warning you now, better watch it. You need to stop it. I'd rather be in the tropics. And you miss not slick, popping a bunch of hot shit. You mad, cause you home breathing air that's toxic. With 4 wings and rice, I'm eating Thai food with chopsticks, just chilling. And you wonder while out on some lock side though. Maybe you're making next year, get a breath of fresh air or a pair of fresh airs. Do I get fresh air? I'm flying in the runway model, cross us and the gunplay follows.
Now, Paul Cain is a rapper from Brooklyn, New York. Paul Cain is actually from Brevoort Projects in the Bed-Stuy section of Brooklyn. Paul Cain is the younger brother of the Brooklyn rapper Fabulous, and you may know Cain for being heavy on the DJ Clue mixtapes and the mixtape and DVD era. Now, Muggs, aka Paul Cain, was 1/3 of the Triangle Offense along with Fabulous and Joe Budden. And Cain was also part of DJ Clue's Desert Storm record label alongside of acts like Stack Bundles, Fab, the A-Team, and Joe Budden. Now, Paul Cain is also a member of Street Fam, the Street Clique, and the Street Fam rap group, which consists of Cain, Fab, Red Cafe, and Freck Billionaire. Now, Cain will also rep his own clique and promote SLK, which was short for Street Life Kings. Now, Paul Cain was signed a record deal with Sony/Epic in 2002 and appear on fabulous albums such as Street Dreams, Real Talk, From Nothing to Something, and Loso's Way on songs like Why Wouldn't I, Keeping It Gangsta Remix, Popo, and This Is the Family, just to name a few. Before Paul Cain would show his acting skills in Loso's Way, the movie, and web series like Respect Life and The Brooklyn Way, Paul Cain would find himself in some trouble that he might not made it out of. Now, in 2006, Paul Cain would be shot just 2 months before his brother Fabulous was shot after NBA superstar Sebastian Telfair was robbed for his $50,000 chain by an alleged Street Fam member. Now, when Cain was shot, the bullet would puncture his lungs and affected his ability to rap.
At first, I couldn't do it. I ain't gonna say I couldn't do it. I would get through it. It'd be 20 punches and one 16-bar verse, but I'd get through it.
Now, it's even reported that Paul Cain was shot because him and his Street Fam crew were connected to a string of robberies at the time. Now, in an article from allhiphop.com, it says 2 months before Fabulous was shot, the brother rapper Paul Cain, 25, was also wounded in violence, suspected to be connected to several chain snatching incidents. Officials believe that the gang has about 20 members who are former drug dealers that hail from the Brevoort houses in Brooklyn where Fabulous was raised. Now, that information was from allhiphop.com. Now, this is all public information, even though it's just speculation. And this goes all the way back to like 05, 06 in the DVD era. So I'm sure it passed the statute of limitations anyway. Now, Paul Cain was very talented, and I just wish he would have put a little more in the music and took it a little bit more serious and put out like more projects. He definitely had some classic freestyles with Fab, Joe Budden, Stack Bundles, and the whole Desert Storm crew. But hop in my comment section and tell me your favorite Paul Cain song or freestyle. Let me know in the comment section.
The underdog New York is really here. Young Juvy, dog. My son 2-1, he's still here. P. Wizzy, this Brownsville, man.
Now, Jinx Da Juvy is a rapper from Brownsville, Brooklyn. Jinx is from Tilden Projects and began rapping at a very young age.
My name is Jinx Da Juvy, represent for all the people in Tilden.
Around age 13, Jinx started taking rap seriously and put out his first single featuring Papoose for Above the Limits. Now, Jinx would rap for Cool G Rap over the phone, and G Rap would take a liking to him. G Rap would then invite Jinx to come to the studio to be on a song on his album, and Jinx would go to the studio with rapper Papoose, who was like a big brother to Jinx at the time. Now, these three recorded a record called Home Sweet Funeral Home off of Cool G Rap's Roots of Evil album in 1998. In 1999, Jinx along with Lady Luck will appear on Big Cap and Funk Flex Tunnel album with a song called Bounce. Now, after all the exposure Jinx Da Juvy was getting, there'd be a bidding war over him between Rough Riders and Def Jam Records, but Jinx will end up signing to Def Jam Records because his mother felt like it was a better deal for him.
DOI was interested in signing me, but my mother said for longevity, rather me sign to Def Jam.
In 2000, Jinx would appear on a record called NYC along with Cool G Rap and shoot a music video for it in Queensbridge Projects, which would be the first time Jinx ever shot a music video.
Kinda late, kid. You better get upstairs, so you gotta go to school tomorrow, kid.
Crazy tomorrow Saturday, I'm out here hugging the block.
Now, Jinx Da Juvy will continue to work with G Rap and appear on his next album for the Giacana Story in 2002 on a track called Blaze With Y'all. Now, in 2003, Jinx will get another big look and be on the Cradle to the Grave movie soundtrack with his song Off the Hook. Now, before we move forward with Jinx's accomplishments in the music industry, let's touch on some of the trouble and hard time Jinx was caught up in, because I feel like it's a big part of his history and legacy. Now, while Jinx was making moves in the music industry, he'll still be caught up in trouble with the law by having one foot in the music industry and the other foot in the streets. Now, on New Year's Eve 2001 going into 2002, Jinx would be shot in his arm by the police at the age of 17. Now, supposedly, Jinx was in a shootout with the police, and it's even said that Jinx sent shots at the officers. Now, initially, Jinx was charged with attempted murder on a cop, but his charges will be dropped down to reckless endangerment. Now, after being charged with attempted murder on a cop, Jinx Da Juvy will be bailed out 2 days later by his mentor and father figure, Russell Simmons.
Simone! Get a lawyer. Jinx in jail again.
Jinx would eventually cop out as a youthful offender, and luckily he wouldn't have to do any jail time, but he had to stay out of trouble for 4 years. Now, Jinx Da Juvy would deny having a shootout with police and says he was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, later that year, after being shot by police in 2002, Jinx would put out BK Finest along with Fabulous, a mixtape record for the streets. But sadly, in 2004, Jinx Da Juvy would be dropped from Def Jam Records, but luckily he would keep his close bond with Russell Simmons and got his full support with his music career and projects he released under Teflon Music. Now, Jinx would eventually sign to Russell Simmons' music group and continue to pursue his music career. And Jinx would start to basically grind it out in the underground music scene, from being on mixtapes, Smack DVD, I believe, in 2007, and Rap City The Basement in 2008, and he even appeared on MTV's Run's House. Jinx will also have his videos on WorldstarHipHop.com and a countless number of blog sites to keep his name relevant. In 2008, he would even have his video Strong Enough in rotation on BET's Rap City. Now, around this time, Jinx Da Juvy was grinding independent and started to promote his label Strong Enough Entertainment, but sadly the same year, Jinx Da Juvy would be shot in his head in September 2008. Now, supposedly, Jinx Da Juvy was involved with an altercation ending with gunshots fired, and Jinx was struck in his head. Now, Jinx Da Juvy would go on and survive this shooting, but not everything would be negative for Jinx. Jinx went back to school, and around 2009, he was supposed to graduate from college and get his associate's degree. Now, with all these things going on in Jinx's life, he continued to work and put out music and music videos, and even linked back up with Papoose to release a visual. But in 2014, Jinx's long life of crime and hustling and getting in trouble by the law would eventually catch up to him. Because in 2014, Jinx and 14 others would be caught up in the Mac Ballers indictment, and in 2016, Jinx would be sentenced to 25 years of prison for his involvement in this drug conspiracy. Now, after Jinx filed for his appeal on his sentencing on his case and losing a few times, Jinx would finally get 10 years taken off his 25-year sentence and will be released from federal prison in 2027. Now, Jinx was released from the feds a few months ago. He's home alive and well, and he's working on his clothing brand, Urban Graduate, and he's working, and he seems like he's trying to stay out of trouble. Now, this whole Jinx Da Juvy story I wanted to touch up on because I feel like it's legendary and people don't give him his credit. Like, to be this young in the music industry at 14, 15 and to be rapping with Kool G Rap, being on DJ Clue mixtapes and having being signed to Def Jam, and all of these things he was doing had some big impact at the time. It wasn't no small time things, like being on Funk Flex album with Big Cap. These were big moves he was making at a young age. And it's legendary, and it kind of influenced all the young boys to rap in the hood growing up in Brownsville. So I just wanted to touch up on his story. Now, there were in-house problems with Sean and Junior Mafia, and Lil' Kim even threw shots at Sean on her Notorious Kim album, on her Notorious Kim track. Now, Lil' Kim would say everybody wanted Sean off Big. Get it? Sean trying to sound like Big when he rhymed. Now, that's not the only problems you'll hear go down between Junior Mafia and Sean. It also was reported that Sean had a shootout with Junior Mafia outside of Daddy's house back in 1999.
You're talking about Daddy's house. It was a shootout 30 days before the Club New York. And that's when I started carrying a weapon.
Was that the Junior Mafia situation?
Basically. And you know, me and the Mafia, we cool now.
Now, I'm going to get into an article from the New York Post, and it says this happened October 2nd, 1999. A rapper was beaten and shot, and a woman friend was cut by flying glass outside the recording studio of rap mogul Sean Puffy Combs yesterday, cops said. In the latest violence to strike the rap world, a suspect in a red Mercedes tried to run down cops, but was nabbed a few blocks away. However, a buddy ran into a nearby building and escaped after leaving behind a 9mm gun used in the attack. The events, which resembled a rap music video, which began with a session at Combs' recording studio, Daddy's house, which is on the second floor of 321 West 44th Street. The artist present included Lil' Kim and Lil' C's, members of Junior Mafia, a group founded by slain rapper Notorious B.I.G., a longtime collaborator of Combs. The rap mogul wasn't there. He went to Miami on Thursday to do a radio show, a spokesman said. About 1:30 a.m., an 18-year-old rapper identified by studio employee as Sean went downstairs to Club Monaco to have a drink. In the bar car, Sean got into a fight with Damian Walker, believed to work for Little Kim, cops said. Sean trudged back to Combs' building with a woman friend. As soon as he walked into the lobby, 3 shots rang out from a 9mm weapon, shattering the glass door and inflicting serious cuts to a woman, cops said. The woman, who was not identified, went back up to the studio, leaving a trail of blood in the hall. She was taken to St. Luke's Hospital, where 38 stitches were required to close her wounds. Cops questioned Little Kim and Little C's and others in the studio, and they pointed the finger at 2 men sitting downstairs in a red Mercedes. But when cops tried to question the men, the driver, Stan Johnson, tried to run them down and speed off. Sirens wailing. Police pursued the pair and caught up with them on 44th Street between 11th and 12th Avenues. Johnson, 24, of the Bronx, was charged with reckless endangerment and attempted assault of a police officer. His buddy, who was not identified, ran into a building nearby and escaped ditching the gun. Cops don't know if he or Johnson fired the shots. Now, this is another article about this situation from allhiphop.com, and this is supposed to be one of their editors, and he said he was there when this whole situation took place, and this is what he had to say. Hope you are well. I know both Sean and C's real well, and Sean didn't get beat up by Junior Mafia in front of Daddy's house. What happened is C's, Gutter, and a couple other dudes stepped and surrounded Sean. Sean was with someone else, one of his boys. Things got tense with all the back and forth, and Sean and his boy, I forgot all the exact deets, pulled out a burner and started shooting at the ground and then in the air to break things up. Ultimately, everybody scattered and ran. If you look it up, there was an article either in the New York Post or the Daily News about a shootout in front of Daddy's house. Whoever was popping off tossed the burner and ran. Also, the beef got deaded because of Wolf, Puff ex-bodyguard, and more cause Wolf puts in ton of work for Puff. Now, whatever really happened out there that day, we'll probably never know the actual story because this happened 25 years ago. And a lot of times when things happen so long ago, you have false memories and different people have different perspectives on what actually happened.
And that's when I started carrying a weapon.
Was that the Junior Mafia situation?
Basically. And you know, me and the Mafia, we cool now.
But anyway, tell me what y'all think in the comments section. Now, if you're a fan of these old hip-hop stories, tell a friend to tell a friend about my page. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. More content coming, and I'm out. 1.